Good morning, City Manager Martin. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Mark. My hands are real beat up. You can't tell. Knuckles. I've been building a swing set for my grandkids. They're like from scratch. And I bet I made 100 trips from the garage back to the back of the yard. And I've got splinters and poked fingers and metal shavings. And, I guess you should wear, they say you should wear gloves, but it's hard to wear gloves when you're dealing with nuts and bolts and stuff like that. So, but I had a good weekend. I hope everybody else had a good weekend. And we are blessed in Mount Juliet. And I don't know if it'd be better or not to do this, but we've got a budget workshop tonight. It's the first one that we've had with the Board of Commissioners. So that's going pretty well because sales tax numbers were up last year, and there's some other funding in place. And of course, I know since the last time we talked, a lot of people are probably curious. And what I want to do is I'll start on the north end, Mark, and
Can't hear.
You went away, Kenny.
I don't know what happened there. Sorry about
There you
that.
go. Start on the north end.
All right, I'm gonna start on. I don't know how that happened. I didn't even hit anything. My hands were right here. But anyway, start on the north end with the fire department. I know a lot of people are still curious about that. That's in the bidding process. I actually, to select a contractor. It's designed, it's ready to go. So that should be starting here real soon. I think everybody's excited about that. The police department expansion, for example, the $6 million addition to that. We haven't picked a contractor yet, but the designs are getting finalized as we speak. So the expansion to the police department should be starting real soon as well. And, it's like anything else, it'd probably be a little bit yet once you pick a contractor and they get stabilized and all, but that's moving along pretty well. So we're excited about that as far as city facilities. And then I'll jump around since we're on city stuff and talk about the bridge widening at 40. If everybody's been through there, which I know you have, you can tell where we're looking at widening the bridge at 40. The work has started. There's some weeks they're working, some weeks that they're not. Unfortunately, because of weather, if it gets too muddy or too big of a mess, but they are progressing pretty well there in spite of the weather. So once that project's complete, I know that's going to be a whole lot better for everybody. Hopefully everybody's getting through there okay. They promised to keep the lanes open during the entire process, which so far they've done. Traffic still gets a little bit messed up sometimes, but for the most part, it's just part of what we got to go through to make this happen. For sidewalk project on 70, the first phase of that, of course, and the second phase are complete. And our hope is to eventually add some more sidewalks and keep pushing those sidewalks further west toward the Davidson County line. The elected body did fund streetlights for Highway 70. So between Park Glen and about the new Green Hill High School, there's going to be LED probably about 90 poles in total to light up Highway 70 with LED lighting, which I'm pretty excited about because the only other LED lighting in Mount Juliet right now is at the I-40 interchange at Mount Juliet Road. So if you travel that section of Highway 70 between Green Hill High School and Park Glen, you're going to notice a big change here real soon when those poles start getting up. The project's funded. We're working on the right of way for a few extra poles through there. We've got to have an easement. But other than that, everything's ordered. The check's been delivered to Middle Tennessee Electric, and that work will start real soon as well. So pretty excited about that. Another city project, the Clock Tower. I'd like to thank Masters Landscaping for stepping up and doing a beautiful job of landscaping the Clock Tower for the city at no cost. Mr. Mike is an absolutely phenomenal human being, and he wanted to do that out of the goodness of his heart, and I think it looks absolutely fantastic. Of course, the Greenway on Golden Bear, if you've been through there and you've seen the new bike/walking greenway, and also the restroom facility and the trailhead, it's come along real well right across from Amazon. And then as far as road projects, the city continues to do all the engineering, environmental design, right-of-way, things of that nature for I-40 at Central Pike, for South Mount Juliet Road, and for Highway 70, and also east of Division Street from Mount Juliet Road all the way up to Rutland along East Division. I know there were some comments recently on one of the social media sites about East Division from there to 109, but I can say that the city, with hard work of the staff and the elected body working with Amazon, they're making a rather large contribution toward the widening of East Division. So I'll pause real quick, Mark, to see if anybody's got any questions about any of that. None?
Anybody? All right. You're halfway there. You got to Division Street.
Exactly. And that's just on the city projects. The city's also going to be looking to expand sewer there's a subdivision on the backside of Hickory Hills called Canebrake Subdivision. The subdivision itself wouldn't be in the city limits because it's in the county and it backs up to Davidson County, but the city is expanding the sewer to provide for that particular subdivision, which I think is good because it'll open up our sewer pocket plan to service some more people down in that area as well. And then there's 3 new traffic lights that were approved by the elected body. I don't know if we've talked about that since last time we met or not. One would be at Curd Road and Mount Juliet Road, and then one would be at Highway 70 and South Green Hill, and then the other, of course, is at Oak Hall and Mount Juliet Road. So if you're familiar with those locations, that'll make things a lot safer. And you've probably been down Golden Bear and noticed some of the new traffic signals going up there. There's one in front of Amazon that also has LED street lights, which we're going to make mandatory now when we add a new street light. If you've noticed those over by Amazon, they've got some really nice LED street lights attached to the pole itself. This will be the first set we've had like that, and we're going to make that the standard practice going forward with all of our street lights in the future. So I think it's just real good about lighting up an intersection even more than what it is, because visibility, of course, is always important, but especially at nighttime, so that everybody can focus on the signal and intersection itself. So excited about that, excited about all the other things happening from an infrastructure standpoint from the city of Mount Juliet. And I'll transition now over to businesses and start that on the north side as well, and then work myself back to the south. Going all the way to the county line, there's a little bank building, if everybody will remember, across from the old fireworks store that used to be there years ago. And I think the sign is still there. It's got like this fireworks kind of bursting kind of sign that's out front. But right on the county line, there's an old bank building that's been empty probably about 5 years. There's a new restaurant that's going to be moving in there called Music City Bar and Grill. If you've heard of that before, there's one on Music Valley Drive in Nashville. So this will be their second location. And they'll have an outdoor patio and things of that nature. And I'm excited about that because it gives the county line right there a little bit of new life and puts a new business in that building that's been sitting empty for, like I said, about 5 years, maybe even longer. So excited about that. That's a new business coming. As you come up the hill where the old car wash used to be beside Tractor Supply, you probably noticed that they've demoed that old car wash, and there'll be a new O'Reilly Auto Parts store going into that location. And I know a lot of times folks don't get real jazzed about an auto parts store, but a lot of people have automobiles for transportation and trucks and cars and things of that nature. So when you need auto parts, it's a whole lot better than an abandoned car wash. So plus they built an absolutely beautiful building. And to show that there's a demand for it, if you go right up the road, probably about another 1.5 to 2 miles, there's another O'Reilly Auto Parts that's been there successfully for years. So they're doing quite well. So we're happy to have them and their investment in our community. If you come up the road a little bit further than that, unfortunately, as everybody knows, we lost a very beloved business person just last week. And they had an event there in the middle of last week that I went down and participated in. And that was at the Corner Pub. I think everybody's familiar with that by now, that the owner of that establishment unfortunately unexpectedly passed away. And pretty close to that fella because I'd worked with him and Jeff Rippey when they were looking to come to Mount Juliet. And they were supposed to go up to the Paddocks, which is beside Cheddar's. And that deal had fallen through. So I convinced them to go to the old Hollywood Video location. For those who don't remember, the Corner Pub used to be Hollywood Video. And they didn't think it'd work there, but because this community supported them, it did well. Unfortunately, right now, we're not sure what the fate of that particular restaurant is because I don't think there's anybody else in that family that is in the restaurant business or would want to take it on. So what I anticipate happening is either someone else buying that restaurant or someone that worked there taking over the restaurant and taking over ownership, or potentially a whole new restaurant going in there. It's just too early to tell. Of course, that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is prayers for the family. But I felt like everybody deserved an update on that. The family did want me to express to everybody, and this is probably the best place to do it, is to say thank you for everybody for the outpouring of love and support and prayers. It meant a lot to them. So has anybody got any questions about any of that so far? I know I'm really running through this stuff. Some really good news, which we had talked about and hinted at in the past, is the corner of Highway 70 at Mount Juliet Road, the old Capital City Market. We'd talked about that for a long time, and I knew that something was in the works. I just didn't know when and if it would happen. So when they announced the Whataburger for Hermitage, I had a lot of people call me and express their disappointment that we weren't getting one in Mount Juliet. And I said, well, I said, you never know. Maybe one day we will. And I knew it was in the works, but you never can confirm anything until it happens. But I can confirm that the Whataburger is coming to the corner of Mount Juliet Road and Highway 70. And that lot looks a little misleading because all you see is the Capital City Market. Well, the owner of the property also brought the property to the east of it. And there's like a little blue building, used to be a barber shop, then an old house. And I think right now there's maybe a heat and air business or something working out of it. That'll be going away as well. So that whole corner is going to be cleaned up in a big way. And we appreciate the businesses that have been there, but I think everybody will agree those buildings have seen better days. And so we're excited to see those buildings go. And there'll be a Whataburger there. And just to the south of that, you may not have heard of this, but it's a lot like a wash and roll car wash as far as styling. First full service car wash, and it's called Camel Car Wash. And so it'll be going on the lot between the new Whataburger and the Slim Chickens restaurant that's already there. And as everybody can tell, the Slim Chickens restaurant has been very popular. A lot of people worried about that location, whether or not they would do well there. And I think the community has supported them big time. And exciting thing is you'll be able to go from the Whataburger past the car wash all the way down through Slim Chickens to the red light and come out there by the F&M Bank. So that'll make the ingress egress a whole lot easier to navigate, having that traffic signal. So very excited about that particular part of town and getting that cleaned up. You know, and if you think about in recent years with what's going on the north side right now, you've got, you know, the Dollar General stores. Thank you, Miss Phyllis. That we got down there is one on Nottaway. There's a newer one further down Highway 70. That's a nice building. The old building, we'll put something else back in that building. You think about the new apartments coming in on Nottaway. You think about the Windtree Golf Course project that was approved there. Not sure when that'll start, but at least it's approved. You think about some of the retail that's went in. Also, thanks to Miss Phyllis down there, that section of town's really coming along. And you think about the Taco Bell and the Kentucky Fried Chicken and all the other things, and really starting to see a lot of exciting new businesses come along on the north side of Mount Juliet. And I'm sure I'm leaving something out. I'd also like to thank our elected body for supporting the Mount Juliet Little League program, or some people call it now the Mount Juliet League. You know, the city stepped up and contributed to 3 different organizations, $100,000 to each of those organizations, because they'd all been through so much. You know, the Soccer Association and the Mount Juliet League Football, as we call it, over at Mundy Park. The commission stepped up big time on that, so I want to thank them. I'm not sure if everybody knew that, to the tune of $300,000 to help those organizations. And the Mount Juliet League, thanks to the parents and volunteers and other people, were able to get back on their feet pretty quickly, and they're playing baseball once again. So hopefully Mother Nature will hold off for a while before we get any more rain events like that. I'd like to thank our governor, and I'd also like to thank our state reps and our state senator here in Wilson County for helping get the declaration through the state of Tennessee for the natural disaster area, just like the federal government did. That'll help a lot of businesses like Valley Center and City Center that were impacted by the floods, and not to mention all the homeowners that sustained damage. For us, that's probably about 20 homes. I know that pales in comparison to some, but that's pretty devastating for those folks that were impacted. And I'll pause again to see if I know a few other people that's joined in, to see if anybody's got any questions.
I have a question, Mr. Martin.
Sure.
So, right past Bender's Ferry, there is some development going on both the north and south side of 70. What's going in right through there?
You know, I'm trying to think on the north side. Is that right past the little pawn shop and all that? I
Yes.
think, if I'm correct on this, and I hope I'm correct, I believe that's just, and if I'm not looking at the camera, I apologize, because I'm looking at all y'all's little pictures, and I see Miss Christie over there. I believe that's just land clearing for right now. I don't know that there's necessarily a project approved for that. And if it is, I apologize. I'm not familiar with a project there. I do know that they've been doing some land clearing, and that's what I believe that is.
Hey,
And-
Kenny,
Yeah, go
Kenny,
ahead, Mark.
not to interrupt you, but if Rochelle, if you want to unmute yourself, you might share with what grade A is doing, if that's public.
Yeah, hold on, let me.
Identify that location. I think they're talking about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we purchased that property several years ago, grade A construction, and it does not have sewer access though, for us to build on. So we have been approved to run sewer under 70. So that's why it's, there may be something on both sides of the road. We're boring under the road to do that. It's still a little bit in, it'll take a little while before we get to actually build the process, but I knew a lot of people were asking questions. And so I did finally put up a sign. But where we're going under the road is a little bit further down onto someone else's property, but she's going to have access to that sewer as well. So she has, agreed to let us do that. So you kind of see some disruption next door to where we're going to be, but it's to provide that sewer access. Does that make sense?
So is it
Imagine-
first that's going in, or is it just going to be like a business park, or?
Yes, it's a 2-story property where we will inhabit the top floor, and then we will rent out the bottom. There'll be 3 or 4 retail spaces available there.
Gotcha. And I'm sorry for asking this question, because it's probably been posed before to Mr. Martin. You've probably talked about it before, but how far away are we from the road widening through there?
That is a great question. Of course, the city, thanks to our elected body, and I see Commissioner Mullally is on here, set aside to the tune of about $40 million that they've been working. The state appreciates skin in the game, so the city basically has to step up on the front end, which is wise, and do all the right-of-way acquisition, things of that nature. And our attorney has been full-time busy writing up all the right-of-way acquisition. Unfortunately, we had to go through the hoops through the state and environmental, so sometimes that takes a while. So I would say in that particular road, and I always hate to give timelines because it seems like there's always something when it comes to road widening that holds it up, but I would say probably 2 years. And I know when I say 2 years, it's like, golly, that's a long time, but we will blink and that will be here. And the same with the I-40 Central Pike interchange. If everybody that's on here remembers back when Providence opened, because I believe that's 14 or 15 years ago now, we were under the impression and probably told everybody it would be within 5 years the Central Pike interchange would be open, and we're probably still 5 years out on that. And it's just part of the process. It's if you look at 109 as an example, and that's no knock on the state whatsoever. It's just things happen with budgets, things happen with as they're doing the work, they discover something, there's an area that won't work right. There's an issue maybe with doing the right of way. So I don't want to blame anybody by any means. And I know that a lot of times folks look at the city or look at the state or the county and go, what in the world are y'all doing? And it's just part of the process, unfortunately. The exciting thing is that those projects are all approved, which is exciting thing. So a lot of times it's just waiting on the funding to come through from the state portion. So the reason the city puts the money in it is to have skin in the game, because communities, counties, and cities that are going to get projects now, if you want to expedite that process by years, then you want to do all that work on the front end. For example, like right-of-way acquisition, all it takes is 2 or 3 folks along the way that don't like the offer that the city or the state made for the right-of-way. And a lot of times it's just a sliver across the front. And so that they'll go to court to get that resolved to see if they can't settle on a number that makes sense. So, but please know that behind the scenes, everybody's working really hard, our engineering department in particular and our elected body, to make sure that we can expedite this the best we can. So I think you'll see something, hopefully. It could be sooner than that, but if I was just sitting here today, my personal opinion is probably 2 years on 70, and then probably 4 to 5 years on the Central Pike interchange. And also they're looking at doing the same thing on South Mount Juliet Road. That was supposed to have been done also within about 5 years of Providence opening. And unfortunately, if everybody remembers back before the gas tax went up, the state just didn't have the money to do that. And that's why I'm hoping that some of this money from the federal government under infrastructure, that a lot of our states will start seeing that, because with the bridge that's in Memphis there, as you can tell, our state and our country needs a lot of help when it comes to infrastructure. And I think everybody would agree with that. I mean, you can never add enough lanes to help with traffic necessarily, they say, because we just keep getting more and more people that move to this part of the country. But to me, that's even more reason why we need to be doing even more on roads. And from a small standpoint, I want to give a shout out to your city. I mean, this is your city, and you folks have demanded this and asked about this. But if you think about what Mount Juliet Road would be like had the city commission of Mount Juliet not stepped up and built Golden Bear Parkway, can you imagine what Mount Juliet Road would be like today? or with some of the other connector roads that they're working on now. Mark, I think you'd mentioned a few weeks back about just that simple right turn onto Mount Juliet Road off of East Division Street, to keep that from stoving up. I'm excited too, and I'd like to, Commissioner Mullally on here, I'd like to thank her, because had she not voted for the Providence Central project, which I believe was a 3-2 vote, that project wouldn't happen. And I'm happy to say that they just closed the week before last on that property for the Providence Central, and which means the first thing they've got to do is road improvements. And they're going to be putting all the new roads in over the Providence area that takes Providence Trail all the way across and through the development over to Central Pike, which means ultimately that Adams Lane will be realigned. And that's going to make folks that come out from right there by the Kroger now that have to turn right onto Mount Juliet Road and then go up to Adams Lane and turn left, you'll now be able to go straight across. So very excited about that. And that wouldn't have happened without that development being approved. And the exciting thing about this is they've got to do those improvements on the front end, not somewhere along the process, on the very front end. So the first thing you'll see for Providence development is land clearing and road building. So very excited about that. That's going to help a lot in the Providence area. So those little things may not seem like a lot, like eventually East Hill Street here beside City Hall, it'll be opening up as a result of the Linwood Station subdivision that's being built on Clemens Road. And I think y'all all remember that we've been talking for years about what a jewel Clemens Road is. And, it seems like just this little ugly road that runs through it had some industrial buildings on it, like our city salt sheds and things of that nature. Now there's a park over there. There's a new residential subdivision coming. Hibbett Station will be coming to that area. There'll be a greenway that connects from there all the way down to the train station. So Clemens Road is a hidden gem that'll eventually probably even connect in behind Valley Center and come out on Mount Juliet Road as that project and that property over that area starts to develop as well. So very excited about the road projects. I know it can be frustrating, and we just got to be patient, just like Mount Juliet Road when you think about it, or Golden Bear. Those projects take a long time, but once they come to fruition, there's just absolutely nothing like them when it comes to helping us traverse around town. And I will tell you that our mayor and I've been talking quite a bit, and another vision for the city, for those of you who've been around a long time, is to build some type of a western bypass. There's an opportunity or two that we've got, and the commission has asked us to put together some examples. So what I'm hoping is the next big road project in Mount Juliet will be some type of western bypass that would enable you somewhere in the Tate Lane, South Green Hill Road to be able to go over and go all the way over to Central Pike in some shape, form, or fashion. And we're running out of opportunities over there because as land develops, of course, you have fewer and fewer opportunities for doing that. So just imagine at some point in the future being able to, on the west side of Mount Juliet Road, being able to go over all the way as far as either Old Lemon Dirt Road and Central Pike. That would be pretty good for those of you that traverse that area.
Yeah, we got the Sam Ridley Parkway, the Mac Hatcher Parkway. Why don't we have the Kenny Martin Parkway?
Oh man, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Hey, a couple of projects that are on my notes from the last time we talked that had a question mark: Capstone, the Candied Rib, and the townhomes on the old Crawford softball field.
Yeah, the Candied Rib, they ran into a little bit of an issue with a contractor. They had a contractor that was doing some work for them, and for whatever reason, that process fell apart, so they had to find them a new contractor. Their sign is ordered and I believe made. It just hadn't been put on the roof yet. You probably noticed last week they've got their vinyl lettering and decals on the window, so the inside's done for the most part, or pretty close to it. We've been expediting our inspectors, so every time that they call the business owners, we try to say, hey, can you get somebody down there to help them out, because this wasn't something they intended to happen with the contractor, and that sort of set them on their heels a little bit. And if you've met this couple, they're sweet as the day is long. They're good people. This has been a dream for them for a long time. And I hope that once they open it, people get out there and really patronize them. And they're going to need all the help they can get, of course. But the timing's going to be perfect because the weather is beautiful. The mark, I'd say any time now, you'll see the sign go up. And I think they're getting down into the home stretch now with that. What was
they put farm to table.
Yeah.
That's I was glad to see that go up. So
yeah, what was
we're waiting.
Yeah, what was the other two you had, Mark?
You mentioned last time Capstone, and then the Hunt. Not the Hunt. That's Hunt. I'm drawing a blank. The townhomes at the old Crawford ball field.
The townhomes at the Crawford property, they should be starting soon. As a matter of fact, they met with the planning department for their tech review meeting probably 2 to 3 weeks back. So that project, that's the one that's right down there beside the Mount Juliet Church of Christ. As you make the turn to go toward Wilson Bank and Trust, it sits in that valley where you see that old softball field kind of deal there. So it sort of elevate out of the ground in that valley by the creek. Mark, they too should be starting here real soon. The ball's sort of in their court of when they can pull the trigger with their contractor and get going. But that project's approved, and it's going to be very unique project, something like you'd see maybe in the Gulch or downtown. So I love those types of developments for downtown Mount Juliet, because if you think about it, not too many years ago, when nobody really knew where downtown was, but now you've sort of got this established area to where you can sort of tell when you're getting into the center of town. So that's very exciting. And then the Capstone project, they are still a go for Mount Juliet, but the COVID-19, now that we're sort of, I hate to say coming out of it, but we're definitely on the more positive side of this pandemic. That industry, the assisted living industry, was hit really hard. And so they sort of had to slow down for just a minute and put that project on pause, but it is still a full go. And I think now that we're coming up into summer, I think that you'll see that project hopefully start ramping up real soon. But each time we call them, they claim it's still on pause, but it's a go. And so, Mark, I don't have a definitive date of when they'd start. Yeah, I'd like to see them go and start, because it's going to take a year and a half to get that project open, just like Harmony Place over in Providence. It's going to take a while to get it to the point it needs to be. They're all approved. So my hope is that when they come back, even though it's been over a year now, if everybody remembers, they were ready to break ground and had a tent set up in chairs the week we had the tornado and the pandemic was announced. And, I hate that, but a lot of things have happened, since then, and that our country's been through and our community's been through. That's for sure. So, Mark, did that get those?
Yeah, for those that just drive up and down Mount Juliet Road, the stoplight at Oak Hall that was going to be a blessing, even if you never pulled on that piece of property, getting the stoplight. So if the project is delayed, stoplight's delayed, but.
Well, the one thing good is, Mark, since the commission stepped up and funded those 3 lights, that light will happen regardless, because the city's going to fund it out of its own pocket. The good thing about it is when the project starts at Capstone, they will then return $60,000 to the city to offset that initial cost, because they had committed to that, which is a good thing. And that'll give the city some money to offset some of the costs. So those traffic lights may not seem like that big a deal, but if you live in some of these side streets, not only does it help slow the traffic down just a little bit in certain places of Mount Juliet that have turned into a little bit of a drag strip, it'll make it a whole lot safer for those people that come in and out of those subdivisions and those businesses and things of that nature. So really excited about a lot what's going on there. Let me think about some other businesses here, Mark, real quick.
Why don't you, if you don't mind, jump over to the medical office by Rocky Williams, and got to put a plug in for ML Rose.
Yep,
absolutely. What I saw over the weekend, they made a splash.
They sure did. Yeah. Real quick, I failed to mention that Mr. Steve Griffith's offices are going to be going in beside. You'll see a new office building going in real soon beside the Christian Brothers Auto on Highway 70 across from Green Hill High School. There's been that vacant piece of land there for years since Christian Brothers, and then the car wash. So you'll see a nice office building go in there. Going all the way back now to the south side, Mark's talking about over by Glass Creek Apartments over in Paddocks and Rocky Williams. If you've been through there recently, you notice there's a red brick building, a house that used to be there up until just a few short weeks ago. If you go by there now, it's a game changer as to the way that land looks. That's going to be a new Class A office building that'll be on that site, which is beautiful, because if you travel through there now, you can see the Jones Brothers building, as I call it. That's the other office building that you can see from 40 when you get on 40 West, that good looking building. But you can see the other side of it now if you're in the Paddocks area, and that's an absolutely beautiful building. So the visuals through there now, when you start looking at those new buildings and what that's going to look like, it's pretty nice, pretty impressive in my opinion. And then when you go to what Mark's talking about, if you hadn't had a chance last week to go to the friends and family event that they called it, which there was no cost, and everybody that kept coming in there, I saw Miss Phyllis and her family, and Mr. Bill came over and said, "Kenny, the check's on me today," which was funny because everybody was saying that because it was a free event. But that's such a cool place. And that's a perfect example of what we've always preached. Everybody on here has always said that you always hate to see a business go out. But the one thing good about when a business goes in, you now have a facility to put something new in. And we miss Logan's and we hated losing them. But I tell you, if you're going to get a good replacement, I think ML Rose did the trick. No, and it's absolutely beautiful. You know, nothing more I love than when a business first opens and it's brand new, you know, and the hope is they can keep it looking like that a year from now, because I was looking at all the neat pictures that they took and actually glued on the walls. I don't know how they do that. I remember in school we did it, but I can't, paper mache or something like that. They got all these old pictures, you know, and I was sitting there trying to figure out who all I could name on the walls because they didn't have their picture. And there's Ernest Tubb and Hank Williams and just all kinds of people. It's pretty cool. And it's neat to have something unique like that in our community. So I hope everybody gets a chance to go. They open today, and I hope that our community welcomes them with open arms. Also, since we're in that area with ML Rose, there's a new wash and roll car wash approved for, they'll be coming actually to the Planning Commission. And I anticipate that'll get approved for Blenda Parkway. I think that'll be a great addition. Of course, the Advanced Auto Parts has since opened over in Providence, which that's a nice addition. And the Cadillac dealer that we've been talking about, Mark, Paddocks, I talked to the owner of that just a few weeks ago, and I think they're getting real close to closing on that piece of property. There was one small little issue to be overcame, but I don't see anything stopping that. So I feel pretty confident we will soon be getting a Cadillac dealer in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, which is pretty cool. And of course, once you get Cadillac, then the hope is that you'll get another business and then another business. And so excited about that. You know, if you think about Golden Bear, there's 2 new convenience markets going in and probably a third on the way. One of those is 7-Eleven. And if you've been over by the Under Armour on Golden Bear at Volunteer, you'll see that there's a brand new 7-Eleven convenience market going in there. And under the city's standards now that we've got, these don't look like your typical gas stations, I guess you'd say, or convenience markets. That's going to be a great benefit to the people that travel Golden Bear. There's also another one that's more neighborhood friendly. They'll be going in front of Jackson Hill subdivision. So if you hadn't been through there, or if you go through in the future, there'll be a brand new, they call them seed stores if you ever hear that, but I call them convenience stations because most people know what that is. And there'll also be some retail on that site because the same person that's building the convenience market at Jackson Hills is going to build a small little retail center there in the front as well. So everywhere you look, there's something exciting going in. Our elected body took a tour with staff last week of the Amazon facility, and I can tell you it's absolutely phenomenal. And I know Dr. Wright is on here, so we're going to need a lot of smart kids coming out of the high school system and even through college to go work over there, because my head was spinning because I looked at half that stuff and I was like, I have no clue what this even is. Just the amount of pieces, parts inside of there that makes that operation work. And you think about how every bit of that had to be designed and engineered is absolutely phenomenal. And to think that that's right here in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, they're building 22 of those across the country, and Mount Juliet got the very first one. So that's a pretty neat deal to get the first one. And so pretty excited about that as well. And I know I'm leaving some stuff out, Mark. So if anybody thinks of something that I've skipped over inadvertently, just let me know. But there's just so much going on. Well, I know what I was going to talk about. The Christmas store, they've got the sod in, the landscaping is in. So they should literally be opening any day now. It's really up to them when they open. We're ready to give them a seal when they're ready. That building's absolutely beautiful. I think that side of it turned on. I told Judd, the guy that built that project, said, the only thing that looks bad about it now is you've got to get something done with that other lot beside it. And that is where the Jeremiah's and the retail center and also the Dunkin' Donuts will be going. And Judd's been working with Miss Hazel, Charlie Daniels' wife, and there will be a museum on that site. And more than likely, the museum will be in the new section that gets built, not the old section as we had previously thought, the old red brick building. Those tenants will remain in place, which is exciting for them because those businesses fit that development well. They'll stay in place. That building is going to be remodeled to some degree as far as paint, and there'll be an absolutely beautiful mural going up on the south side that faces the tracks. That entire side of that building is going to be a Charlie Daniels Museum, and that development is going to be called Charlie's Place. Judd met with Miss Hazel last week. He decided to surprise her with that. It was going to be called Cellar Station, and he's decided to call it Charlie's Place in honor of Charlie Daniels. So you'll have a museum there, you'll have a mural, you'll have all that retail, and there's a couple other surprises possibly coming for that site as well that'll play in real well for the tourism aspect, not to mention a large American flag. And also, we're going to represent all of the branches of the military, including SpaceX. So You know, Charlie was very patriotic and loved this country. Judd feels the same way, and the people in this community feel the same way. That's going to be an absolutely phenomenal development when it's done. And keep in mind is there's probably about 4 to 6 acres behind it that he could go back even further and continue that development if he sees fit. So a lot of exciting things going on right there in the downtown area. Mark, like you said, with the capstone, that'll come sooner than later. And then there's other developments. So I don't want to talk
Well, real quick, and I know everybody loves the new brick and mortar, and we get excited about it as well, but it's equally as exciting to see people like Dr. Davis and Dr. Geneva Co. and those businesses that were demolished in the tornado to so quickly pull the trigger and reinvest a lot of money into new buildings right there on Mount Juliet Road across from the school. Most of those businesses, in fact, maybe all of those businesses that wanted to open back up were opened up pretty close to right after the tornado. They did a remarkable job, and we're in for a treat with some of those, some of the new buildings, even Charlie Daniels Parkway.
Yeah, and Dr. Davis on Charlie Daniels Parkways, they're already expanding their parking. And there's another project being worked on for right there in front of the police station on that vacant lot. And hopefully we'll have some news on that in the future. If it's not that lot, it'll be somewhere else, but some good news there. Valley Center and City Center, they're still working their way through the floods. Some of those businesses are starting to open back up. So I'd ask everybody to please patronize those businesses once they get back open. They've been through a tough time, without a doubt. You know, I mean, they've been some of them's been relocated, and some of them just been out of business altogether because of the flood. So this community's sure been through it. And Mark, like you said, across from the middle school, there's already one retail center going back in up there. When that's all done and all that whole stretch gets rebuilt, it's going to be beautiful with the new buildings. So like a Phoenix Rising. And the same with the middle school, once the middle school and elementary schools get built. And I see Dr. Wright on here. So Mark, I'll defer to you in case you want to jump over to the schools, or if Dr. Wright would like to speak.
I know Pam was on here as well. Dr. Wright's days are numbered. She's a short.
I'm not dead yet.
She's a short timer. We're going to get what we can. We're going to get what we can.
I hate
Morning,
that
Dr.
term.
We're so
How are you?
envious of her, though.
Just
We'll
in
be
time
around.
for lake
Be
season.
around.
Good morning. How are you?
Okay. Are you wanting a comment or something? I guess.
You know, think back to where we were a year ago with schools and so many uncertainties. Now we've already got at least some of the proms out of the way. I'm sure there's plans for graduations, and
First graduation starts Friday night, 7:00 at Green Hill High School, outdoors. Because of being outside, we're going to make masks optional. And, you know, hoping for contingency plans. And then Saturday morning, Lebanon High School will follow at 10:00 in the morning. And so I've already had a request from some people who want to know if we can contain the temperature not to get above 80 degrees. And so I was hoping it was tongue in cheek, but I think they were serious. Can't control the weather, but we'll do the best we can. There was a question on here about, I think it was from Phyllis, about when the demolition would start. Heard this morning that they are anticipating starting the first demolition on West Wilson Middle School late this week, possibly by Thursday, because we need that done as quickly as possible in case we need to have our backup plan and use the newest part of that will not be demolished. It was built in 2012, and it's known as the 6th grade wing or the 800 wing, which has about 27 classrooms in it. It's been well maintained. Heat and air have been on since last July, which surprised people that, you know, we have that back there. It was never intended that it would come down in the demolition, but all this is contingent as far as, and again, we have to have backup plans. We're hoping that we will have our Bobcat Village ready to go at the beginning of school. But if you keep up with the news, and I have to keep reminding people that we are just a small part of what's happening nationally. Construction materials are out the roof right now. There is a long wait. And in fact, really even Green Hill High School got the tail end of that as you start seeing the backup due to COVID on getting some of our materials even delivered there, particularly equipment. So anyway, we have a contingency plan. Bobcat Village is going to happen. We're really pleased as far as how that's playing out with ancillary offices and in the Phyllis Robinson Gymnasium, which will be quite nice. That structure that might have a due to as far as the legacy that Phyllis left, that building had little to no damage. And when you see the camera footage as far as what swept through there when that tornado actually hit the main structure at Stoner Creek, it's just amazing that the gymnasium stood. And so with that, again, contingency plan, I know that there's a lot of speculation. There's rumors that we're putting people in danger and all that. And folks, help me on this. We are not going to put anyone at risk, students or staff. We don't do that. The only other contingency plan we could do is delay the start of Stoner Creek by 2 to 3 weeks until we have all of the village up and going. But I'm going to tell you, parents would not be happy with that. And we can't keep them at Mount Juliet Middle School because our middle school population is exploding. And so I have to create room there. Not me, that'll be for someone else, but I've got a plan. But we have to make sure that we can contain that. We're trying to limit the number of transitions as we move for this next school year. But again, I want to reiterate, we do not, I mean, everything's inspected from looking at the state level. There's been question about asbestos abatement. That is a closely regulated industry, and there is nothing that we're going to compromise or put anyone at risk. And it's, I mean, when I say scrutiny, if any of you have ever been through that with the older buildings and you go through abatement, and I have been, there is nothing that's going to be scrutinized more so than what we do when we start taking particularly West Wilson Middle School down, because that's the one that has it embedded in the brick and the block, and which was unusual, but we don't know what they were thinking at that time period when they were building. So a lot of things going on, but I think if anything, some excitement that, and maybe some nostalgia too, that when we see the buildings come down, but know that 2 brand new buildings, both Stoner Creek and West Wilson Middle School, will be constructed on that footprint.
If I had to guess, I would go out on a limb and say that there's probably 0 people on this call today that buy into that kind of hyperbole that you see on hip whatever. And I'd say you are surrounded by cheerleaders here and know the right things being done. And
I hope so. Let's
sometimes
put it this way. I've got grandchildren, Mark, and I'm not going, I would not, and the people I work with every day, we're not going to put anyone at risk. We're just not going to do it. If we have to delay because we can't give that promise, we'll delay starting school. But the thing is that it's regulated, it's monitored, and we're going to keep everything as safe as we can. And I'm kind of excited about the Bobcat Village. I mean, it's got to, give something to elementary people, and they can make something out of, really make it cute. And I would have thought you would name it, but it's Bobcat Village, soon to be erected.
Will Rogers said, when you're leading the herd, every once in a while, you need to look over your shoulder and make sure the herd's still there. I would suggest to you that your herd never left you. So thanks for everything. We'll have another chance to catch up before the big day at our June meeting, if not before. But does anybody got anything else for anybody on here? We've got everybody's contact information. If there was somebody on here that you need to talk to, feel free to reach out to us. Kenny, again, thank you for your time. Did I see that Public Works or the Parks Department was mowing Grace Park? Does that make it official?
Yeah, it's Grace Park is definitely a done deal. We got everything worked out there. It's something held that up for just a little while because they were looking at building some single family houses on the backside, and we actually needed that to get the parking in and for the dog park. And Mr. Lee got that worked out with them, and they're mowing it now. It's probably never looked better from a mowing standpoint, but we've got our architects and engineers working on that, and you'll see construction on that start early this summer. That's going to consist of a dog park, parking lot, walking trail, and a pavilion. And then over time, we'll add other things, and you'll see a sign go up on Mount Juliet Road. But we got a lot of parks going in. We got the Tate Lane Park. We got the Clemens Road Park, of course, that we're trying to upgrade there, and trying to build these parks sort of like what most of us grew up in, where you had a park right down the road. And I think that Stuart had a question, I believe. He had to unmute, but yeah.
I would like to thank Donna Wright for being on the hot seat for a while over there. I would like to urge that those big, heavy air conditioners that were tossed around during the tornado, that those be placed on the ground and not on the roofs, if at all possible. And the kids got to have a really strong, safe place to run into if there is another big storm like that. We just like your comment on that.
Well, first, one of those units that's sitting on the roof of West Wilson Middle School that you can see from the road doesn't belong to the school system. It appeared, it landed there. We don't know where it came from. So that's one. And then it looks like something like a space alien, but all that will disappear. And there's going to be a different design as far as when you look at how the structure is completed. Now, the second thing that you asked about, storm shelters. This is something that's really important, and we'll talk about it more publicly as we get into the actual construction. But part of the new codes require, as far as that shelter, and that is part of the construction that literally in either Stoner Creek or West Wilson Middle School, that you'll have the part of the interior construction that we can house for a couple to 2-3 hours, as far as staff and students. And this is something that has been developed particularly out of hurricane weather, that will contain. Is it foolproof? Who knows, but it's certainly a far better effort as far as being able to evacuate students and staff into a center that we now see are being required in many of the building codes. And so that's going to be part of the plan for both schools in this new construction. And I see that as something moving forward, as not only Wilson County, but other school districts will be building and taking part of it, because the old model, and some of us, I won't date everyone here, but if you remember, you always went into those center hallways and covered your head. Well, we know from just looking at some of that film footage that we had, if they had this tornado hit us during a school day, we would have had fatalities along with casualties. So we're thankful, but that's one of the things that's in the plan. It's very expensive, I might add, but again, it's a requirement and we embrace it.
Thanks for your service.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for the kind words, Stuart. I think everyone agrees with you. I don't see any other comments, and we are a few minutes past our time, but Kenny, keep North Mount Juliet Road rocking. I see you every day running up and down the street.
Absolutely.
There's a cigarette butt. Boy's bending over picking it up. So
that's right.
It looks good. And
hey, Mark,
everybody can take a look and see the projects we're talking about. Isn't it exciting with talking about road projects? We're talking about parks, greenways. We got 2 new fire stations coming, additions at the police station and an existing fire department. A pretty lucky community, and I think it speaks to, if you want to find out what's important to somebody, follow the checkbook. And I think you can see that education, it right on down, it's probably first in a long time, maybe not first, but better than in a long time, with everybody pulling the wagon in the same direction. So keep it up. Good luck in your budget workshop tonight. And with that, this is recorded. Marla will have it posted on our YouTube channel. And I think it's on our YouTube channel. Is that right, Marla? I think she's taking her nap. Never mind. I'll go wake
here.
Oh.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
And I think Kenny wanted to say one more thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kenny, close us out and then say good day.
I just want to thank Dr. Wright as well. And she's exactly right. The state and federal mandates when it comes to those buildings and things of that nature, she's spot on with that. There's particular ways that you've got to do it. Even old buildings, much, much smaller than that, we've got a process here that's followed through the inspection process. And so she's exactly spot on with it. And the way they're building schools now, just like what we're building with the police station, it'll have a hardened facility part of it. And she's doing a phenomenal job. You hate to have a tornado come through, but if anything, a lot of good lessons were learned about the past and the future. And we're going to be proud new owners of some absolutely beautiful schools. And I want to thank her for being such a good steward the entire time she's been here. Just imagine any other school system facing what she's faced, our community facing what this county and this city has faced. And to get through it speaks of the professionalism for everybody on here and the hard work. It takes everybody, not just one person. So thank you, everybody, and God bless all of you. I hope you have a great day.
Good day, everyone.